For the longest time, gamers have believed that big screen adaptations of their favorite franchises are doomed to fail. Time and time again, Hollywood has shown that it really struggles to make good movies and shows based on video games. But it seems recently that is changing, and The Last of Us may be the one to finally end this supposed video game adaptation curse. Let's dive into today's video to learn how. First off, The Last of Us may be uniquely made to tackle the video game curse. Often the biggest hurdle when it comes to making good video game adaptations is just how close to the original game the movie or TV show should be. The thing is, because video games are a different medium, translating their gameplay to the big screen isn't that simple of a task. Large portions of a video game are just sequences that require players' input. In a lot of games, the story itself takes a backseat to the gameplay, and so turning that into a feature-length film or even worse, a season-long show is just too tough. Back when The Last of Us came out in 2013, the gaming industry was most overtaken by open-world role-playing games. Stuff like the Elder Scrolls series and Grand Theft Auto was what everyone talked about. These games were different from The Last of Us in that they allowed players to pursue the quest that interested them, giving them the choice to select who they killed, partnered up with, and rescued. That's completely different from the more linear storytelling style of The Last of Us. In a lot of ways, the game almost seemed like it took a few steps back in the way it told its story. But it's only when someone goes through it all and witnesses the amazing narrative do they understand that this is a unique experience in itself. And it's one that definitely is a lot easier to translate into film and TV than the more open-world oriented video games. Next up, Neil Druckmann's dedication to the series is another positive sign. If you're not convinced yet that the show has the potential to end the video game curse, then this may alter your opinion. One of the big reasons why the video game film projects we've seen fail over the years is because they fail to have a proper voice and vision guiding them. Oftentimes, studios simply want to bank on the game's hype and success and create whatever schlock they can to get people in the theaters. And without a creative lead to put their foot down, the end result tends to be disappointing to say the least. That's not the case with The Last of Us though. In fact, even as far back as 2014, the game was supposedly getting a movie adaptation. But as you'd expect, that was just done by a studio wanting to turn it into some kind of a big blockbuster zombie horror, which The Last of Us isn't. Sure, there are zombies, but Neil wanted to tackle the project more like an indie film that focuses on the characters, their journeys, and their motivations. Because he didn't see eye to eye with the studio, ultimately the project got canned. It had the king of horror, Sam Raimi, attached to it. It may have been good, but it wasn't according to Neil's vision. And considering he's one of the main voices in the game itself, it's important for him to give the go-ahead with any of the details of the show. Plus, the upcoming HBO show seems more in line with the actual game. While the original movie that was pitched back in 2014 wanted to turn the franchise into just another shoot-'em-up type flick, where invincible characters take down wave after wave of zombies, it's clear that the HBO show is taking a different route altogether. The series, from the trailers and clips we've seen so far, is focusing a lot more on being a more indie and personal project. Sure, it's got the big budget that HBO provided, but you won't get guns and explosions going off every second like it's a Michael Bay or Zack Snyder project. Considering that Neil is deeply involved with the project, we're not surprised that it's managing to retain this quality from the original games. Many fans believe that the story in Last of Us, and even its more controversial sequel, is a masterpiece. And if the TV show's able to carry the same tone and structure, then we're definitely getting something that's going to end the video game adaptation curse once and for all. Plus, we've gotta say, it's pretty amazing to see HBO and other studios be so willing to give gaming franchises such large budgets, especially when you consider that they're letting the original directors of these franchises take the reins and control the stories that they want to tell. It goes to show that Hollywood itself is a bit more receptive to what fans want, and has maybe finally realized that slapping a video game's name on a series isn't going to get people to watch it. Though we should mention, hasn't the video game adaptation curse already been broken? Sure, Neil has claimed that the show's going to put the video game adaptation curse to bed, but we've gotta say, it feels like the curse was put to rest already. In the past few years, we've gotten tons of amazing shows and movies that are based on games. It's a bit unfair to completely disregard them and pretend like The Last of Us is going to be this savior that finally gives us what we want. We need only take a look at the likes of The Witcher, Castlevania, and Sonic the Hedgehog to see that there have already been tons of decent shows and movies based on video games. Even more recent examples like Arcane, which is based on League of Legends, and Cyberpunk Edgerunners show that it's definitely possible to make good series based on video games. The upcoming Super Mario Bros. Movie also seems like it's going to be a crowd pleaser. character, despite a couple of issues with the movie's voice casting. So, if you were to ask us, we'd say the video game curse has already been dealt with. That said, we'd be lying if we said that we don't want The Last of Us to succeed. Considering the sheer popularity of the project, it may be the series that brings video game adaptations to the forefront and paves the way for more franchises in the future. Whether it's able to appease fans still remains to be seen, but we definitely think there's a decent chance that it's going to do amazing. Moving on, here's why The Last of Us will be less violent than the games. You'd think a series based in a post-apocalyptic world, filled with zombies where mankind has also begun attacking each other and there are beasts roaming around, would be filled to the brim with violence. But it seems that the creators of The Last of Us have other ideas. HBO's adaptation of the iconic video game series is taking a different approach from the game, which always puts violence at the forefront. There is a ton of action in the games, but it seems that the show isn't going to just be an action-oriented story that doesn't have anything else going on. When talking to SFX magazine, Druckmann revealed that The Last of Us series will be toning down the violence from the games a little bit for the show. He added that they need to put a certain amount of action and violence in there. The main goal is for this to work as a mechanic that serves to help the audience to connect with Joel and Ellie. He also added that, once you've connected with the characters, it's going to be a lot easier to see the world from their eyes. The creative minds working on the series stated that in a passive medium like TV, it's tough to add the same level of violence and action. After a while, it would start to get boring and drawn out. Co-creator Craig Mazin suggested that they should take away all the violence from the show, except the bare minimum. Up next, what does this reduced violence mean for The Last of Us? Having less violence might sound like a deal breaker to some, but there's a good reason for it. Fewer violent scenes will help to make the ones that are actually violent stand out more and have a much deeper impact on the audience. You know how in action movies, after a bit of time, you just start tuning out all the guns and explosions? That's kind of how it would have been, but with violence, if the show kept the same amount of gore as the games. In the TV show, when the threat actually makes itself clear to the characters, we're going to be seeing everyone's reaction to it, and that's what's going to make it scarier. The reveal of the infected and the clickers is also going to be spine-tingling apparently. The show's going to highlight just how these things were able to bring down humanity and just what makes them such scary things in the first place. So, if you're worried that having less violence is going to make the show any less scary, don't be. The show will definitely have tons of frights and scary moments. And in fact, having less violence may even help to make violent scenes that much more shocking and unexpected. Finally, the show will also focus on the drama of the characters a lot more. In an interview with IGN, Druckmann talked about how the series isn't just going to be an action roller coaster. Instead, one of the main elements that it's going to highlight is the drama that exists between the characters. Some of his favorite episodes are ones that deviate a bit from the game's story, and he's really excited for fans to finally see them. The Last of Us ranks among the greatest games ever made, and much of this is because of its great storytelling style. It's a series that many people have been dying to get adapted into, and we've finally gotten it. After many years of waiting, we definitely trust Neil and the team to get this right, considering their experience with the games. That's a wrap for this video. What are your thoughts on The Last of Us series? Comment below, give this video a thumbs up, and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.